Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing truth about dumpers no one talks about. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing truth about dumpers no one talks about. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you likely want to know about the dumper mindset. Here are 3 truths about dumpers that no one talks about. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is they aren't wrong. So if you're a dumpy and you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, what do you mean they aren't wrong? They've broke my heart. That was wrong. I want to get them back into a relationship. I don't think this relationship should ever have ended. They were wrong for ending it. It was perfect. Okay, well, let me explain my thoughts on point number 1 about why I believe they aren't wrong. A dumper's feelings are real, and hence they can't be wrong on that basis. Consider your own feelings as a dumpee. You feel the way you do, and those feelings are yours. You own them. They are your feelings, and they are true and they are real. Now, when you and your now former partner were in a relationship, you were both feeling a high level of romantic emotional attraction for one another. Now, for various potential reasons, unfortunately for you, the dumpee, your now ex, the dumper, lost romantic emotional attraction for you. Now, when this attraction dropped to a necessary low point, this is when they actioned the breakup. But why did they action the breakup? What does it mean when the attraction level hits the necessary low point? Well, it showcases that the dumper was no longer feeling fulfilled within the relationship. The dumper was no longer feeling confident that this relationship was going to give them fulfillment, satisfaction, and ultimate happiness. They wanted to go down a different path. And these feelings aren't wrong. As I was saying about your own feelings, how you feel now about the relationship, we have to also consider that the dumper is feeling their own thoughts and feelings in a similar truthful way. So whether or not you feel the relationship should have ended, we have to consider that the dumper believed it should have. Now, this doesn't mean your ex-dumper can't regrow romantic emotional attraction. This doesn't mean that your ex-dumper can't change their mind. It doesn't mean that you can't get your ex back in the future. But what it does mean is that your ex-dumper is not wrong. Sometimes you might read articles, hear podcasts, see videos where people suggest that the dumper is wrong. The dumper is the bad guy. The dumper is the bad woman. The dumper is the bad person. Okay? They are not the bad person. And most of the time, a dumper could fully explain why they ended the relationship. Now, maybe they didn't do that to you. Maybe you didn't have the benefit of closure. But that doesn't mean that their feelings aren't real, aren't authentic, and aren't true. Maybe in your heart, you treated your now ex in a bad way. And you can now, if you think logically, realize why they ended the relationship. Perhaps you were blindsided and you have no idea at all why they made this choice. But what we can say is that their feelings aren't wrong. Their feelings are real. They are true. They are genuine. They are authentic. Now, this doesn't mean they can't evolve, and they will. Now, whether or not they evolve in a way where they want to reconnect, only time will tell. But they will grow, they will evolve. The way they felt about you when you was in a relationship is different to how they feel about you now. And it could evolve to be different again in 2 weeks, 2 months, and 2 years. Feelings and emotions are flowing. They will evolve, they will grow, they will develop. And depending on the level of romantic emotional attraction in your ex-dumper's mind will dictate in the future if they want to reconnect. But just as much, your own feelings as a dumpee will evolve, grow, and develop. And you may get to a point where your ex-dumper reaches out to you, but you actually don't want to reconnect. This could be something that you think is preposterous, you could never imagine was ever taking place, but it can. You might get to a stage where your ex-dumper reaches out to you, and you no longer want to be in a relationship with them. It's very, very possible. But what's so important to recognize right now is even if you feel the relationship shouldn't have ended, recognize that is your thoughts and your feelings, and that isn't wrong to you, but also your ex's decision to end the relationship isn't wrong for them. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast, about truth about dumpers no one talks about. And point number 2 is dumper mindset is mainly controlled by the dumpee. So let's look again at the relationship that you and your now ex once had. At the time of the breakup, when unfortunately this relationship was coming to an end, as I've already said, your ex, the dumper, was feeling unsatisfied. They were losing romantic emotional attraction. It hit the necessary low point. That is why they actioned for breakup. Why did they do this? Well, they did it because their mindset was mainly being controlled by you, the dumpee. Now, you might feel you had nothing to do with this situation, but I would suggest that you had a huge amount to do with the breakup. Maybe it was an obvious scenario, maybe it wasn't. But if you and your ex were both feeling a high level of attraction to one another, the breakup wouldn't have taken place. So there was something regarding your behavior, your connection, the way you communicated with one another. Something, unfortunately, was making the dumper feel they no longer wanted to be in this relationship. So if we consider that is why the relationship ended, we can also see how this can connect with things post-breakup. And that is why if you were to read, listen, or watch something that was suggesting that the dumper mindset is purely about them, and you as a dumpee have no influence on this, I would suggest that's wrong. I think the dumpee has a huge input into the dumper mindset. I think the dumpee almost controls the frame of the dumper mindset. So if you want to try to get your ex back, you can be growing romantic emotional attraction from afar. You need to be growing that attraction to the necessary high point, at which stage your ex, the dumper, will reach out to you and reconnection is possible. And this isn't something you have no influence over. Even though you're broken up, even though you are apart, even though you're no longer talking, you can influence your dumper's mindset. Unfortunately, you broke up because you had a large part to play in their mindset. But on the plus side, if you want to reconnect, you can alter their mindset in a positive way from afar. And that is why I believe the dumper mindset is mainly controlled by the dumpee. Now, if you want support and guidance now to increase the chance of getting your ex back, how you can try and positively influence your dumper's mindset, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast, about truth about dumpers no one talks about. And point number 3 is very few dumpers want to hurt their ex. Now, as a dumpee, you are likely feeling negative emotions. You're likely feeling upset. You're likely feeling angry. You could be feeling bitter. These feelings are very natural, they're very understandable, and not something I would suggest you hold on to. These feelings are things you need to be working through and eventually coming out the other side into a more positive frame of mind. But they are understandable, they are acceptable to the point of you've been dumped. You're likely to be feeling negative, upset, and almost trying to find something or someone to blame, okay? But what we need to recognize is that very few dumpers want to hurt their ex. Very few dumpers want to hurt their dumpee. And when you're going through the grind as a dumpee, you probably believe that your ex, the dumper, wanted to hurt you. They wanted to treat you this way. They decided to end the relationship in a way to give you maximum pain. Well, I would suggest that this is very, very unlikely. Most dumpers do not want to hurt their ex. Now, you might listen, read, or watch negative terminology and things which suggest that the dumper wants to make the dumpee go through the grind and feel awful. But from my research and speaking to many, many dumpers, that is just not the case. In most examples, in most situations, the dumper doesn't want to hurt their dumpee. In most scenarios, the dumper actually feels really guilty and concerned for their dumpee. They don't know how to end a relationship. Sometimes a dumper will be wondering, speculating, and thinking about how to end a relationship for many, many weeks, if not many, many months, before they action the breakup. And they do this because they don't want to hurt their Dumpee. They're trying to think of a way that they can get through the situation without ending the relationship, without breaking their heart. But it might come to the stage where they just realise there's nothing in their mind that they can do. They don't know how to proceed. They don't know what else they can bring to the connection. They don't know what else their ex for Dumpee can bring to the connection. And hence, they have to end things. But how they end things can vary. Is it face-to-face? Is it via a call? Is it by text? Again, the Dumpee might use this as a basis to, in their own mind, believe their ex for Dumpee hates them. That is not likely the case. Most dumpers who end a relationship in a way where it's not face-to-face are likely doing so because they don't want the confrontation. They're worried, they're nervous, they don't want to see their Dumpee in pain. They don't know what to do for the best, so maybe they send a text. Now, is this the coward's way out? Maybe it's a good argument you could suggest, but it doesn't mean that your ex-dumper actually wanted to hurt you. It doesn't mean that they hate you. It doesn't mean that they even dislike you. It just means that they felt this relationship needed to end because they did not feel fulfilled and satisfied. They needed to go on their own path. They needed to experience a new way of life. This doesn't mean, as I said earlier on, that they can't change their mind in the future. And who knows, if and when they do, you might have changed your mind and you might not want them back. But the point is that very few dumpers want to hurt their ex. Contrary to what some people might say, contrary to what you might be feeling right now during your negativity mindset, this is not likely to be the case. And if you are going through the grind, if you are going through negativity, please remember that if you want to try to get your ex back, you can't be behaving in a negative way. Do you believe that thinking badly of your ex is going to make you behave in a way which is likely to influence your dumper to want to reconnect with you? I would suggest if you think negative, you're likely to act negative. And negativity is not going to bring your ex closer to you. You might be frustrated, you might feel bitter, you might feel angry, but you need to come out the other side. Because if you don't, you can't get them back. You can't get your ex back by shouting at them. You can't get your ex back by arguing with them. You can't get your ex back by behaving in a way which is negative, needy, desperate, frustrated, angry. You can't do so. So yes, feel these feelings. Yes, process these feelings, but please move forward through these feelings. Because whether you want your ex back, whether you want to find somebody even better, you can't live life in a negative way. It won't help you, it won't make you feel good, and it won't bring anybody into your life. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.